Hello, hello. Welcome, welcome. My name is Irene Kainz. Welcome to my live talk on radical unschooling. This is the topic for today, and I have a super, super special guest. I'm totally excited to have Dayna Martin from Florida with me today. She will be joining soon. She is an icon. She is an icon on radical unschooling. I will talk to her on what that exactly means. And she has raised her kids with that. Oh, well, she's here. Hold on a second. Her kids are already grown. Teenagers, adults, we will ask her exactly how old they are. And yeah, I think everyone who is interested in this topic of raising kids beyond school, without school, will be, will get a lot of gold nuggets from this talk here, and mostly also parents who in Europe, in Austria, in Germany are in the situation of not being allowed to do this legally. We also will go into this kind of topic. So, where is she? Dear Dayna, I already invited you to come live. I hope you can see that. Okay. Again, I'm inviting you again. Sometimes it takes a little bit.
Where is she?
Yes,
Hi, dear Dayna. I already invited you. Hi, there we go.
Hi, there we
How
go.
are you doing? Just gonna set up my camera here.
Yeah. So I'm so excited to have you. This is such an honor. This is so super cool to talk to you with on this topic today. You're in Florida right now, right?
I'm in Miami, Florida. Very wonderful place to live. I love it here.
Yes, it's I've never been there, but I imagine. So I'd love to talk to you on this topic of radical unschooling. Maybe you would want to introduce yourself.
Sure. Sorry, I'm just trying to get my
on your experience on that topic. Maybe also, I don't know exactly how old your kids are. They're like late teenagers or even adults.
Yeah.
Right?
So sorry, I'm gonna get settled here. There we go. So I have 4 kids. I have 2 boys and girls, and my oldest is 23, Devin. I have a 19-year-old daughter, 20-year-old daughter, Tiffany, a 17-year-old daughter, Ivy, and a 14-year-old son, Orion. Hey, Tiff. My daughter's here. How are you?
It's so cool. Yeah, so cool. She's here. Beautiful, wonderful. So you already have quite a name in this scene of unschooling. I mean, you're known. Even you wrote books, right?
Yes, I've written 3 books on the topic. Sorry. Bear with me. If Tiffany was here, she'd be helping me with how to set this up. It's my first Instagram live. I feel very excited. So yes, I've written 3 books on the subject, actually. The first book I wrote is called Radical Unschooling, and I wrote it, I think, 13 years ago. My kids were still really little. I had a 1-year-old, a 3-year-old. And so for me, I trusted in this journey and this philosophy from the beginning, from the moment of their birth, and my kids have never been parented any other way. But yes, I've written another book after that. So I'm also a childbirth teacher. I was a La Leche League leader for 10 years, and also I became a doula and a midwife. So I've written a book called Freeborn, and I have a doula certifying program for people that are hoping to be birth workers. And I also wrote a book in 2020, like it came out right before COVID, called Raising Rebels. And that's my favorite book. And I'm working on my 4th book now, which is due to the publisher in November. So I have a little way, I have to hustle to get this done. But I work well under pressure. So yes.
Beautiful, beautiful. So what does this term radical unschooling mean to you?
Well, radical unschooling is, for me, it's an extension of attachment style parenting. So it really means caring about your child's needs as much as your own. And most people parent from something called the authoritarian parenting paradigm. So some of these terms might be new for your listeners, but I'm really happy to explain what they mean. So in the authoritarian parenting paradigm, the focus of parenting and most parenting advice from experts and other people is obedience. Obedience and behavior modification. The focus is very, very strongly on modifying the behavior of children and controlling the behavior and rewarding and punishing the behavior. And what radical unschooling is very different. It's coming from a partnership-based paradigm. So instead of focusing on behavior modification, which only meets the parent's needs, so it's a very kind of a narcissistic focus, to be honest with you. It's when you're modeling that for your kids, that only your needs matter, they start acting that only, in such a way that only their needs matter. So a partnership-based paradigm focuses on the needs of everybody in the family equally and understands that behavior is just, having a realistic expectation of different behaviors at different ages. So there's a lot to the philosophy, and it's something that's, I think, really hard to articulate for a lot of people. And they first hear about it, it makes sense to them. But then to really explain it to their partners or friends, or it's like another level. So yeah, radical unschooling is extending the area of trust that you have in the relationship with your children to all areas of their lives. Now, what that looks like is different for each family, but I'm happy to go into more detail when you ask more questions. So.
Yes, of course. And I think, the major topic definitely is trust. If you're interested to lead or go that path with your family and your children, but how can you cultivate this kind of trust? Because a lot of people don't have that. A lot of people don't know how to connect to that kind of trust.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard when we weren't trusted as children ourselves. And our parents weren't trusted. It's a whole idea that children will manipulate you if you're kind. There's this underlying message that parents are given. That you have to train your kids to be good people. And I think that probably stems from religion. I'm not sure where it's come from. It's come from a number of different places. But, ultimately it's about trusting your children are good people and they're with them, present to help them navigate the world. They make really good choices when they're to make choices. Yeah.
Okay. I'm also working with parents on this topic, so I'm asking all those questions I keep hearing. So this is this one part of trust, to really trust into the children, the inner source of the children themselves. This is the one part. But then the other part is, if they are not schooled, and if they are not trained, and if they are not given the knowledge society wants, how can they survive as an adult in this society?
By watching how we're surviving.
Yes.
By being with us. There's so much deconditioning that needs to happen. There's so much deschooling, and that term, to unbrainwash yourself, is seeing things in schooly terms and doing things certain ways that we've been told they had to be done. So children learn by being in the real world, by being out in society, making friends with people of all different ages, pursuing their passions, finding who they are, and having as much freedom and time to pursue what they're interested in. And becoming an adult is, it just happens. It just happens. And it's whether or not you're going to become an adult with a lot of fear and shame and angst and from being controlled, or whether you're empowered to treat the world with the respect that you have received as a child. Everything starts with how we're parenting, everything, and how our children are going to navigate their adulthood. So my daughter, feel free to ask her any questions, anybody. I saw she
Yes, yes. I also see the question, please save this live. Yes, this live will be saved and it will appear on my Instagram and later on also on YouTube, so everyone can rewatch that.
Great.
How did you come to, to go into this topic, to feel into this topic, and most of all to raise your children on those relative philosophy?
Well, it happened really naturally for me. I did it from the very beginning, and I know not everybody goes that route, but having a natural birth really was what started me off, to be honest with you. And that's why birth work is so important to me.
I hope it's not my internet, because you are. Can someone who watches tell me if Dayna, if you can hear Dayna right now, or if it's just me that I can't hear her? Oh, she's gone. Okay, next try. I'll invite her again. She's gone. Thank you, Selena. Thank you. Okay, cool. So my internet seems to be all right. Sometimes I I really do think if the line to connect is very, very long, like Austria and Florida, it seems to have more troubles. Although it technically doesn't make sense that way, but I feel it anyways. If you guys who are listening and watching this video, if you have any kind of questions, please share your questions in the comments. We will try to answer them for you. Okay. Dayna. And also, I'm having those live talks on unschooling, deschooling, homeschooling, mostly once a week here on my Instagram account live. So you can watch them. Some of them are in German, some of them are in English, since I'm based in Austria, and my intention with those talks, where is she, Dayna? My intention is to raise awareness, to raise consciousness on this kind of topic. Most of us are not even questioning how our children are educated, because this system of schooling is so popular all over the world and hardly anybody experiences something else. So that's why we are not even triggered sometimes to think out of the box. So that's that's why I'm doing those talks, because I really want to raise this awareness of a self-led and free path of education for your children. And it doesn't mean that everyone has to do it the same way. It doesn't mean that everyone has to do it at all. But I really, really would love to have a more general understanding that this is a very, very responsible path of parents who choose to educate their children not in school, because they're really taking a lot of responsibility onto themselves, and they have a strong value in that. Usually people I meet who do that usually have a very strong value, and this is why I'm doing those talks, because I really want to share those insights parents have and become doing this thing of relating differently to their children and having them grow up differently than within school. This is something very, very inspiring, I think, and I feel, and also it's my experience when I'm talking to people that usually it gets them. This topic usually gets them. So one more try. Dayna, where are you? She already was talking to me. It was starting off very interestingly. But now the internet did not. Oh, maybe she's here now. She's. And if you're watching and already have, I'm using this account now. Is it you, Dayna? Okay. Then different account. We'll see if this works now. Putting in some magic. Yes.
Thank you. Here we go. Hold on. Okay. I think we're coming in there. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, awesome. Great. Hold on. Whoops. This is my daughter's phone because mine died. Let me find a. There we go. Okay. Hi. Okay. Thanks for having me back. I'm so sorry about that. Oh my goodness. Hold on. My daughter usually helps me with these things. I know.
With all those filters, though, it looks so cool.
I don't have these on my phone, so.
Oh, really? Okay.
There we go. I think we're good. No, we're sparkly. Just bear with us, guys. Sorry about that. You can continue, and I will figure out how to do this.
Okay. Yeah. Maybe. This is so funny. I have to laugh. Sorry.
I have to get my daughter up here to help me. It's just automatically going through. All right. Well, we're just going to leave it here. It's going to be fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you were just talking about, birth, that this was like such a strong opening for you towards this path, and how people, how children, how babies come into this world on if it's very natural, then the seed of staying in relationship, that's as far as I understand it, what you weren't saying this, but I understood it this way. When the seed already in this deep connection of relationship and this deep nurturing connection is already to feel, then it's actually quite awkward if we go back to this paradigm you already mentioned earlier of only as an adult, only my needs are met, and I'm trying to manipulate, and I'm trying to make the child fit into my world.
Yes. My daughter's phone is just going crazy. This is so fun.
This is so fun.
Can you get Ivy for me? Ivy's going to come up and help me.
Yes.
Crazy. This is so fancy. I just can't get the filters to stop. All right. I think we're good. All right. There we go. All right.
You might have
and I think we're definitely, thanks for the help. We are definitely talking about a new paradigm on this. This is something I feel very strongly when whatever happens right now, this minute in this world and this years in this world. I mean, it's for me, it's this huge next step in evolution. And once we're over this threshold where we are right now, I don't think that we really can go back to any kind of conditioning people and conditioning young children and trying to have their souls fit into whatever awkward paradigm we have created as
Yeah,
humans.
I agree. And I think that children being born now, at this time in history, are being born knowing the feeling of injustice so much stronger than we did. I truly do. My kids have shown me that. They're very, very much clear in their communication as they were growing up that something didn't feel right or didn't feel fair or didn't feel kind. We weren't generally allowed to share those kind of feelings. We would get in trouble and told we were bad if we didn't just, obey. And a lot of us who were highly sensitive, we wanted to be loved, and we knew that love would come and acceptance would come if we did what we were told. And so we lost ourselves, and we learned that was what life was about, was pleasing people around us.
Mm-hmm.
And it's years of undoing for us to come through that, and we probably will be healing for the rest of our lives because of that. And it wasn't even like, it wasn't necessarily negatively intended by the adults in our lives, because it was just done to them. But it takes a really brave person, especially in a country such as Austria or Germany, where it's so hard because homeschooling is illegal there. And so I think back to when I was a little girl, and my heart and instinct told me to do certain things. And then I found out that these things I would get in trouble for doing them. Getting out of my seat and helping another student that was crying. I wanted to go over and give them a hug and help them. And I got punished for getting out of my seat. None of us want to be thought of as criminals or, rule breakers or people that are bad by the adults and, the authorities in our lives. But sometimes we're faced with this moral dilemma. And control does that. It's not our fault. This is what control and the authoritarian paradigm does, is it forces us to choose between our inner knowing of goodness and rightness with the threat of being punished.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
In a way, or, the number of things. And it's so unfair. And so I want people to know that they are good people. Just because you might be wanting to do something that you're... government is saying is illegal, you have support.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's why you're here. That's why Irene's here with this, offering this, because she's somebody that you can get a lot of support with, and you're not alone.
Yes, definitely. And thank you for those words. And there is a little bit of difference of the legal situation of Germany and Austria. In Germany, homeschooling definitely is illegal. Any kind of schooling and outside of the building school is illegal. In Austria, the situation is a little bit different. Homeschooling is an option here, but you have to do an exam. The child has to do an exam once a year. And this was kind of okay for the past years, especially for the younger children. I mean, the older they got, it did get more difficult, because what they requested there, this was a fixed set of topics, like what they teach at school. The kids at home and homeschooling had to know as well. So the longer you do, you educate your kids at home, it got more and more different, because the interests of the children usually don't develop like the tests are. But it was easier possible the last few years. My son is now 13, and he never went to school, so we're on this path for more than 6 years now. But last year they changed the rules a little bit and made it tighter, and you can't choose the school that is taking the exam anymore. The school is chosen by the government, and you have to take it. And everything became more strict and tight. So this is the reason why there are probably 1,000 families right now in Austria who are not, I mean, who are really willing to stand up for the children and are not continuing this legal path and trying what else we can do and how we can change the situation so we keep our values and we can create our day-to-day life with our children in a way that still supports our relationships to each other. So yeah.
To take your child to a school to be tested, or can you do the test at home?
It's at school, and the school is chosen by the government.
Right.
And there is it's not allowed to get in contact with the teachers or talk about what exactly, what topics will, or if, also stuff those the kids did at home, it's not welcome to bring it. So it's just very strict.
Yeah, that's hard. And that must be hard to navigate. So you're basically quizzing your kids at home to pass the test. Do you have any idea what the test is going to contain for questions beforehand?
I mean, everything that is supposed to be taught in school for that year. So it's really a lot. It's really a lot. So this is actually something where either you really live this philosophy of unschooling, or you do the test. It's not, you can't bring it together anymore. And for that reason, I would love you to have, to distinguish between unschooling and homeschooling a little bit. What does those two terms mean for you?
Okay. Well, homeschooling is basically doing what schools do at home. So you buy a curriculum or you follow a state's curriculum, and you teach for the test. You teach for the knowledge to be obtained. And unschooling is really different than that, because it's based on learning through your passions. And I don't look at myself as my child's teacher. I'm not standing in front of them pouring knowledge into them as the all-knowing authority. I'm helping facilitate their learning based on what they love. So it looks different for every child, but it's much more freedom-based. And the philosophy of unschooling itself is based in children's rights and freedoms above all else. So it's based in the idea that forced learning or coerced learning is not true learning. It is memorization. And sometimes we need to do that in a situation like you're explaining. Sometimes we do need to do that for freedom. For you to have freedom to homeschool there, you need to jump through these hoops. And so I think unschooling there would be a little more difficult. But I don't think you'd have to be in the role of a teacher forcing your child to learn. It's just a matter of explaining to them how it is, that I don't want to be doing this, having you learn things you're not interested in, but this is the way the laws are here. And we need to ensure that you can be home with us. So we have to learn these things. We have to memorize them. And I think that it won't have the damaging effect. A parent can still be in partnership with their child, explaining why this needs to be done, and sharing in partnership the frustration that that both of you have to be doing this is really honest to say, I'm so sorry. Some countries you don't have to do this, but here in Austria or in Germany or wherever it is, we have to. And so do you have any ideas on how you can learn this the easiest? You can research and find different modes of learning that might be better for your child, whether it's watching videos, documentaries, mentorships, finding a tutor. I'm sure there's a lot of ways you could go about it that would still respect the child. So just because the school is enforcing all of this, if you explain with compassion to your child that I don't want to be forcing you to do this, let's do it together. We can make it fun. You want to play games and try to memorize certain things that will be on it. I think children would fully understand. There's a lot of things in the world that we need to explain to our children. We're driving in the car, we're explaining that the law is here, or that we need to stop at a stoplight. Yes, it would be fun to go a million miles an hour and just go anytime we want, but the law is here where we're at, we need to stop. It's for safety. So I think having compassion and explaining to your child why the legalities are the way they are surrounding homeschooling, you're not going to be damaging your child in the same way as if you were traditionally homeschooling and threatening and forcing and coercing and getting mad at and threatening to take things away if they didn't do what you said. When you don't make it about you as the authority, instead be very honest that we have to do this, sweetie. Like, we need to learn these things or we can't homeschool. So let's do this together. You're not alone. I wish it was different. So I'm assuming that's probably what you do, Irene, is like explain those kind of, how do you go about it?
Yeah, actually, like I said, there is a quite of a movement right now with a lot of families who really are that put up with that courage and are daring to question the law.
Yeah, nice. So underground,
and
like you're doing it kind of underground, and you're is that
no, like
okay.
The authorities know that about us, and we are facing fines.
Okay.
Yeah, but we will see how this goes, because there hasn't been such a strong movement in the past so far. And if you look closely into those laws in Austria on homeschooling, it's not very much defined, and there is this one definition that the government or the state is interpreting the law, but you also could do it on a different way, like we as parents look at those law texts. So yeah,
better than I thought with what you were doing. I thought you were too. So I love that you're kind of pushing up against and questioning. It takes a special person to be willing to do that, to be making change and saying, this is not right, this is not just.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I also love your answer, because it already shows that there is so many different paths you can walk once you take on this self-responsibility for we as a family, for us mothers with our children, for us parents with our children, when we feel our values are not met in the school system.
Oops. Yes.
So if anyone has this feeling, whatever happens in school with their children doesn't really work along the lines with their values, there are so many different paths. It's not only homeschooling, it's not only unschooling, it's not only radical unschooling, it's it's not this one thing. It's
right.
However, and also I think the path probably develops. Well, once I got when I started getting into this idea of not putting my son into school, I very quickly loved this idea of radical unschooling. And then I was like, okay, but we still have to do this test here. And then I was like, adapting myself to how can we deal with that. This was the one thing. And the other thing I had to adapt is my own conditioning. I mean, your words were beautiful when you said, yeah, you don't have to make it about yourself, and you don't have to play out the authoritarian role towards your kids. But then when pressure comes up, and when you're maybe getting nervous or stressful or anything, then you find, at least me, and I'm also seeing this with other parents, that all of a sudden those old behaviors I'm not really approving are still on the table, coming from me.
Yeah. It's always the way.
So yeah. This is a huge challenge in trying to develop something differently for your children, and on the same time have to deconstruct your own behavior, and both at the same time.
I think that's why this philosophy of parenting is so beautiful, because we're forced to face our past and what was done to us and question what we're doing and heal. So parenting this way, and parenting in a way that you should have been treated, in the way that you wished you were parented, in the way that your mother wished she parented you. You know, nobody comes to this world being authoritarian to those they love. Parents are trained to train their children. And so, yes, we have a lot of things that come up for us, especially if we're not at our best. If we're tired or hungry, we tend to resort back to our conditioning and frustration and the demands that were made of us. We sometimes inadvertently put on our children. But the wonderful thing is, we have the ability to apologize. There's been many times, I'm sure everybody walking this path has said to their kids, "Oh, I'm so sorry. You know, I didn't mean to yell at you, and you don't deserve that. And I apologize. I was really hungry and I was needing to eat." And so I think that we model authenticity when we have the ability to do that. So eventually it does become second nature. I have not been in an authoritarian mindset with my children for a very long time, over 15 years probably. In the beginning, it was hard because I was so conditioned. But we're healing. You know, we're healing alongside of parenting. We're reparenting ourselves through doing what, like I said, what we wished we were, how we wish we were treated. And I think many people that hear this philosophy, we're not even really telling them something new. We're telling them something that they knew long ago that they forgot, and they were told that was wrong, and they buried it under conditioning. So most of the time when I'm talking with people, they feel this kind of resonance, like, wow, yes, that makes sense. I feel this to be truth within me. So advocates for this life, our job really is to reawaken the inner knowing that you have about parenting and about the way other human beings you love should be treated. Yes.
That's so beautiful. And keep the already awakened seed or awakened spirit within the child, right?
Oh, yes. Our kids, all the ways in which we're trying to get more mindful and present, and our kids won't need to go through all the healing that we do. It's not going to be perfect, because we still were raised in the authoritarian paradigm. So we're not perfect, and parenting is never perfect, but they're not going to have to deal with all the inner work that we've had to do and continue.
Yes. There are so many topics I'd love to go next. One thing I'm really interested in myself is, like, your children are between 14 and 20 something, if I remember right. So, I mean, most people would say you already have results, right?
Yeah.
What are those results?
The main priority for me is their happiness. So the results to me are very different compared to what they would be for other people. The results for society would be that they have good jobs and they're making money. Nobody would really ever ask if they were happy, So my goals and my results are who they are as people, and them being true to themselves and being authentic and making money off of doing what they love and having healthy relationships and striving and growing and, reaching for their dreams. So the results, they've never not been present. They've been this way since they were born. So yeah, and I think unschoolers, and maybe a lot of people in our world, maybe even myself included, we're realizing that we can make money off of doing a lot of different things, multiple streams of income based on our passions. That's for all of us. So a lot of these life lessons and things that I want for my children, I want for myself, and I have for myself. So when kids are in the authoritarian paradigm and they're in school and they're conditioned to not enjoy being where they're at, and they're always looking at the clock and they can't wait to leave, man, people really slip into jobs throughout their lives with that same kind of mindset, thinking that's how life should be because they've been so conditioned to look at the clock and, can't wait till they can get home. And my children have never been conditioned for that kind of mundane, like drudgery in their lives. So they wouldn't even think to get a job that they didn't like, that they had to look at the clock. They've always been entrepreneurs and doing what they love, and also taking jobs that they enjoy doing where they're getting paid for their time well and they're respected. So it really is a different way. They have very, very much higher standards because they were treated with respect. They would never step into a space where they weren't respected like we did. How many bosses did we have with our first jobs that were really mean to us, but we were just used to that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, they're all really happy. My son Devin, who's 23, he and his wife, who's also unschooled, they met at an unschooling conference about 8 years ago, a conference that I organized, and they fell in love and they got married but probably a year and a half ago now. And they have their own home and gardens, and they're both pursuing things they enjoy. My son Devin is like a landscaper. He's also a blacksmith, and he also manages a tractor supply store. They're really involved in their church. And that was a path that they've built for themselves. They really have. And my daughter Tiffany, she's her name was Dakota when she was born, actually. And when she was around 4 or 5, she said, "Mom, I don't like that name. That's not my name." And she said, "I want to be called Tiffany." And I'm like, okay. I thought it might just be a phase, but no, that's her name now. So Tiffany, she is pursuing profession and beauty. She's always loved like designer and brands and the newest fashions, and which is so not what I was like at all. I was really naturally minded. I still am. I had all, home births, and I'm vegan, and I kind of walked that path. So when she was probably 6 years old and said she wanted a Barbie, I was like, whoa, no, oh, Barbie? Oh, I had read so much about it, and I told her, I said, I don't want you to think that your body needs to look like this. I don't want you to, this is society's idea. And then I bought I had so many conversations with her, and she said, "Mom, I just want to make their clothes." And I'm like, okay. So I had to really learn a lot from my kids and step back and decondition even from, the results of so much of society's issues. My daughter Ivy took all of her Barbies and painted them all green to look like zombies. So we don't want to fear into not interacting with the world. So Tiffany's very, happy in that space. She's always navigating different opportunities. My daughter Ivy, who's 17, she runs her own small animal rescue, and she rescues all kinds of animals, guinea pigs mostly. So facilitating that passion has helped me grow because, a house full of animals sounds really hard, but that's not really how it is. I've given her my whole garage, and she was studying to be a veterinarian for a long time. She graduated our high school when she was 15. She's doing all kinds of stuff now. She's in the process of finishing up a book that she's writing. So, and my son Orion, so this is an interesting story, let me tell you, because out of all my kids, he loved technology the most. He loved gaming, and he spent a lot of time gaming, and he loved the tech side of things. Well, about 3 months ago, he said, "Mom, I want to buy myself a keyboard." And I said, "A music keyboard?" And he said, "Yeah." And this is something he's never showed interest in whatsoever. So I said, "All right." So he saved his money, and I gave him some money toward it, and he got a keyboard. And he started playing, and he was really good, really strangely good on the keyboard. And I was like, wow, honey, how did you learn this? He's like, "Mom, it's the same as gaming. It's not hard for me because you use 2 hands when you're gaming, and the hand-eye coordination." So he now saved, and he bought himself an actual piano, and he has this dream of being a concert pianist, and he's playing at the level of people that have been playing for about 4 years.
Wow.
Months. And we talk about it, and it's amazing how gaming for the years that he did, and that wasn't all he did, don't get me wrong, he loved cooking and hiking, but that was a big focus of his life, and parents are very afraid of that. So I want to tell this story. It helped him. He's an amazing pianist already. and he wants to be a concert pianist. And this is from, he says, Mom, this is exactly what you do with gaming. It's so easy for me. I can read the music. I do it really quick. It's no different than, and I was like, wow, I've never heard of that connection before. So anyway, my kids surprise me every day with what they're able to do with their lives. But above all, with Irene, is they're happy and they're fulfilled. And my older kids have partners who love them, and I'm really, really grateful for this path, because out of anything I've ever done in my life that I may have regrets about, parenting them this way is not one of them. I'm had every moment with them, and so I can't believe it. And the funny thing is, my son Devin, who's 23, because unschooling advocacy has been a really big part of our life. We've traveled the world speaking about this. I've been to China, to India. They've been to Australia, Ireland, England. We've been unschooling advocates. My kids have been like the poster children almost of this, inadvertently, for 2 decades, just about. And so at this point, I asked Devin's like, Mom, no one at this age that I'm at, no one even asks if I've been to school. None of us talk about it. And he's like, the only way you can tell the difference is the people that I work with at the tractor store, the ones that have been to school, the second the boss leaves, they don't do anything. They just sit there. He said, well, I don't know why they would do that. I'm like, well, that's what we did in school. Like, they're conditioned to perform when eyes are on them. And Devin's like, it's so frustrating. These people are so frustrating because they're paying us to work. Why are they even want to work? So I'm seeing really interesting ways that my adult children are navigating the world. For Tiffany, she couldn't understand the whole gossip stuff that was happening. She worked in a restaurant for a while to earn some extra money and to meet some people. And she's like, people are friends and they're talking to each other. And the second one person leaves, everyone's talking bad about this person that was just standing there. So for her, she was never conditioned to have frenemies or to backstab and talk bad about people. Like, there's so many aspects of really negative, like, behavior and like personality patterns that kids have modeled for them through school. And so that is really profound for me, because that wasn't something I shared before when my kids were little and we were walking this path. But I'm seeing like the results being, they're really good people. They work hard. They don't like backstab or talk bad behind people's backs. That's not normal for them. That's really unhealthy when they see it. So anyway, that I kind of went on in a long-winded answer there, but I want everyone to know that I'm seeing more and more benefits every single day with kids coming into adulthood, of how they are so much better off and have so much more integrity than most people. And so, yeah, I'm happy to answer any questions anyone has too that's listening.
Thank you, Dayna, for sharing that. I'm deeply touched. I could feel, I could feel the vibe of what you were talking about, and this is so beautiful. Those experiences you make with your children, and basically, what we have to unschool as parents is to untangle our emotions from the conditioning, right? This is actually my personal focus. I am focusing on emotional education. This is what I feel so drawn to bring into this world. How do we deal with our emotions if we are not manipulated, if we are not conditioned, and if we want to go back to those original roots? What are emotions even for? Why do we have them, and how is it to deal with them in a healthy way? And that on its own, it's already, a huge journey. And then if you try it out, then to relate to a healthy emotional state with your children, or whoever it is, other people, then you develop this this integrity you were talking about, right? This the value of caring, of being honest, all those things. And But what I really, really, really love about what you shared just now was this gaming and piano thing, because my son also loves gaming. And this was my hugest lesson of being a mom, because even though I already walked this path of really getting into relationship and letting go of all the conditioning and letting go of all the things I have been learning of what raising children means, and all this stuff, once he got into this gaming thing and it really consumed a lot of time, I was like, no, this is not healthy, I don't want that. And the authoritarian part really came across from my side, and I could so easily see how it got in our way of our good relationship. It sabotaged our relationship, and it got worse every single day. I kept wanting to know it better for him. And finally I was like, okay, I can't do this anymore. I have to go into relationship anymore, and I have to trust him, and I have to trust his feeling on that and his desires with that. And I have to ask differently and different questions and real questions. I have to be very curious about the answers he's giving me on those questions. So finally, I coped with it and could really get to a peaceful state with that again. Mm-hmm. And ever since I do this, which is already years ago as well, I do see the benefits of gaming. I do see what he learns. And I also do see like what, the challenges are for him to not go, or maybe sometimes he does go into this addiction thing. But then I think, we are in a world full of addiction and addiction issues. I can't prevent him from that. I only can give him the safest space I can to experiment himself with that.
Yeah.
And listening to you that it's so close to playing the piano, I've never thought about this too, but then it's so actually obvious at the same time when you talked about it. And I love that story. Thank you for sharing that.
Well, it's important for me to share also, and the people joining this are probably Ivy's friends because my phone, I'm Ivy's mom using her phone. So about it is, I don't value like Ivy or Orion gaming like any less than anything else they're doing. Like, it's not like in my head now that Orion's playing piano after gaming for 14 years. And I'm like, oh, thank goodness. Oh, finally. Like, it's not about that. It's not about sharing that your child can become a piano prodigy by letting them game. I was just as content with how they spent their time gaming or doing something that would impress other people. So I've never been about promoting unschooling based on my kids' successes. Just coming from an authentic place. The piano thing is just really interesting. I'm blown away. And I've told a lot of people this story on the last, during interviews, and people are like, wow, this is a huge untapped benefit to gaming. And when you trust your kids and you connect with them. So I think people envision gaming or kids using technology that you're just like your kids on their own and they don't have any adults around them. Like, my kids have always gamed and did things like that with me there. They're in there because I'm not shaming them for doing it. They're playing together, they're on the couch, on tablets or on a computer somewhere, and we're chatting and we're connecting. And Ivy taught me how to play Minecraft like a lot of years ago, actually, because I wanted to find out. It is hard. I'll tell you, I don't think that many adults can play Minecraft very well because it's very complicated. They are much more advanced and more skilled at doing these things and what they're learning from it. I think a lot of people are fearful of addiction. And I want to talk about addiction for a second, because addiction forms for when people need to numb pain. If you think about talk about two people drinking wine. One person's drinking it because they love the bouquet and the types of wine, and they're very educated. They go and visit vineyards and they're having wine, versus somebody who is sitting in their home drinking wine because they are alcoholics and they've had a lot of past trauma. You know, the two people drinking wine, they might be doing the same thing, but there's very different in the intention of use. To me, when kids are, labeled with video game addiction, I think that's really unfair. Because
Mm-hmm.
are they using it for a tool for connection, for socializing with other people, for expansion and growth and learning new skills? Or are they in such pain from their lives that they're just doing it to numb pain? Well, I haven't seen many unschoolers, for example, gaming and with a state of addiction to numb pain. And my son Devin, who's 23, has taught a lot of people. He's gone on calls with me sharing like the games now, they take a long time to work through. 10 hours sometimes to work through things. And that scares parents. They don't realize that an hour's time, no wonder a child's so frustrated and has issues with rage and different things. They're not raging as a response to the game sometimes. They're raging as a response to being controlled and being told you have to get off after an hour. That's so unfair. And so trusting them as understanding that it takes a long time to gain these skills and to move to different levels, and the social component when you're chatting with people and stuff is so important too. So yeah, the gaming is a big deal. I swear half my coaching calls are based around people who are really afraid that their kids are using too much technology. So when you're not controlling your child and punishing them and threatening them, you have a really good relationship with them, when you respect them. And when you give them information, they take it seriously. You're an influence in their lives. They're not looking at you as, oh, they're just telling me this to try to get me to do what they want, to scare me into not gaming. My kids have always had the freedom. So, and I've shared with Orion when he was younger, like, honey, just be mindful of like if your legs start to hurt. It's not healthy to sit in a chair all day in the same way for a child as it would, even with school, it's not healthy to sit in a chair all day. But, I think it was like every half an hour or hour, he would set a little timer and he would get up and kind of walk around the house or run around outside and go back and play, because kids don't want to hurt their bodies. But when you're threatening their freedom and choice, they will push themselves past a healthy level just to have that freedom and autonomy. So there was one day also, I didn't know about those blue light glasses. Is that what they're called? I think.
Yeah.
So those were a thing. And I think he was maybe 10. And he said, Mom, I'm going to order these for myself, because I watched a bunch of videos on YouTube about how watching a screen can hurt your eyes and it can affect your sleep. And I said, oh, that's awesome. Like, let's show me. And we watched about it. He educated me about this years ago, and he bought his own glasses. I told him I would buy them, and they were $40, and he took all the money he saved to get them, and he still wears them when he starts to get a headache or something like that. So children want to be healthy and make good choices for themselves. And what gets in the way of that is when we make the game or technology some kind of taboo thing, and we're controlling it and threatening and yelling and making it such a big issue. And I'm sure that we could all look back on times in our own lives as children, as teens, or even as adults, where if we're controlled with something, we have a very unnatural relationship with whatever's being limited or controlled. We can't find true moderation. And I can even say that for myself, with different things throughout my life. So
absolutely. I totally can agree. And I totally, also from my experience, the rage anger issue that came up in this question definitely was only an issue as long as I tried to control it. And I tried every single thing I came up with how to control it, like a certain hour on a certain period of the day, in certain other conditions, in certain whatever it was, but it didn't relieve the tightness around this issue. And once I set it free and even got closer into contact and closer in relationship and asking more questions, and also, making pointing out those health things, like, and all of the sudden he went, like you said, my son did this exact same thing, got up every once in a while, took a walk in nature, came back and played. And he developed his own, this came from himself, he developed his own rhythm in that.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel like children really, really desire freedom above all else, just like we do.
Mm-hmm.
Choose and to find their own balance with something without our judgment. We weren't raised in this day and age. Who are we to say that an hour is a good enough time on there? It's not. And I love that my kids have the freedom to be able to do whatever they want for as long as they want and to tap into themselves. And um, I remember Ivy, when she was maybe 9, she was reading about or heard about artificial colorings. Now, it's something we have been talking about for a while, but it was corn syrup. That's what it was. I think we were watching a documentary. She was like, I don't want anything with corn syrup. We would go to the grocery store and shopping, and she would look at every single label and make sure she didn't have corn syrup. She's like, Mom, we can't get that bread. It has corn syrup. I said, all right, well, let's find something with a more natural sugar. She doesn't want to harm her body. She loves her body. She loves herself. And not that kids always make or adults always make the healthiest choice, but with freedom and when you're not controlling and limiting and vilifying foods and things like that, and instead you're having discussions, everybody in the family can be in on it, making these decisions. So, yeah, it's children make good choices with freedom.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They really do. Yes.
Thank you. This is such a beautiful statement. We're coming to an end. Like we have already talked for an hour. It went by so fast.
Yes, it did go by very quickly. So I see a question. I can only see part of it here. Let me see. Is that a question or comment? Oh,
it's a comment. It's
nice. I'm so glad you heard what you needed to hear. Sorry, my phone died, and probably all of Ivy's friends are on here now. They probably know the person she is. My kids, Tiffany, Ivy, Devin, Orion. If it wasn't for them, I would not be who I am today because I listened to them, and they've always just been the most wonderful kids, like any human being could ever have. I'm so grateful to them. I've learned more and grown more since being open to not controlling them and thinking I know more than they do. There's things they turn to me for. I mean, I'm kind of like a leader in the family, meaning they really respect my experience in life and wisdom that I may have gained. But I feel like they have a real, like, wonderful self-love because they've seen me grow and love myself, which has taken years, So, yeah, to all these kids out there listening or anyone that has kids, please trust your babies because they are very, very intelligent and they haven't had the conditioning that you have had and had to heal from. So, yeah, well, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for being here with me and sharing your wisdom and insights and experiences. This was such a pleasurable talk. Thank you so much.
So welcome.
Yeah. So, like I said, this video is going to be on my Instagram grid and also on my YouTube. So everyone who didn't catch the entire talk will have the opportunity to look and watch it again.
Awesome.
Thank you, Dayna. Thank you.
Well, my best to everybody. I have a website if anybody wants to check it out. If you need support of any kind, connect with Irene or myself. We're happy to help you navigate this path of unschooling.
Super. Thank you.
Thank you.
All the best.
All right, all the best.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye to Florida.